Hey guys, for today's video I wanted to try out the new Maybelline Cheek Heat Gel Cream Blushes. I saw these online and I decided to pick them up because they look very similar to a very popular liquid blush on the market, the Glossier Cloud Paint. So the packaging is very similar. They look like little paint tubes. I personally have become a big fan of liquid and cream blushes over the past year, so I just wanted to try this one out and see how it compares to the other ones that I own. Personally, I don't really love the packaging on the Glossier Cloud Paints just because this is a pretty pigmented formula and I find that it just dispenses way too much product whenever you squeeze it out. I haven't tried these blushes on my face yet, but I was swatching them and playing around with them a little bit. So I do have an idea of what the formula is like. And the formula of this one is very different from the Glossier Cloud Paints. This one is a lot more gel-like, dewy, and sheer. Just to start off with some general information, I picked up these blushes from CVS. They retail for $7.99 each, but like all drugstore products, there are always coupons and it's cheaper at like Target and Walmart. It's pretty affordable. You get 8 milliliters or 0.27 fluid ounces in each tube. The Glossier ones come with 10 milliliters of product, so just a little bit more, but the Glossier Cloud Paints cost $18 each. So I think there are 6 colors of these blushes that are available. I picked up 2 of the lighter shades. This one is Coral Ember and this one is Nude Burn. Right off the bat, the colors aren't actually quite what I was expecting. I feel like the tube color is pretty representative of the color that applies. However, Coral Ember is a lot lighter and sheer than what this tube represents. And then Nude Burn looks pretty mauve-y in the tube, which I would also say translates to the actual color that applies. However, online in the swatches, I thought this was going to be more of like a reddish pink, which is kind of what you would expect from the name. I'm not sure if all these colors have fire related names, but I was thinking Nude Burn would be that kind of like sunburnt color, you know? Still a pretty color, but not quite what I was expecting. So let me just go ahead and swatch these really quick for you here. And I'm trying to apply equal amounts of product. So just by quickly blending them out, this is what the 2 colors look like. You can really see the difference in color. Coral Ember is pretty sheer. I feel like if I tried to blend this out even more, it'll eventually just like disappear. So I would say be careful of that, especially with the lighter shades. And then this one is Nude Burn. It's a pink that has a bit of a mauve undertone. And as you can see, these are quite dewy blushes. Judging by the swatches, the darker Nude Burn color does seem to apply more evenly than the Coral Ember. I noticed earlier too when I was trying to swatch the coral color that even when I like tap on it or try to blend it out, some of the product seems to like lift in certain places, so it does get a bit patchy. So those are just my first impressions so far. Let's go ahead and apply it to my face. I do have a layer of foundation and concealer on and some bronzer, but no powder, no blush. I think I'm just going to try applying with my fingers first because that's normally how I like to apply cream blush, but if it doesn't work out then I might go in with a brush. So let's do Nude Burn on this side and Coral Ember on this side. I'm just gonna take a little bit on my fingertips and apply it to my face. Ooh. This color looks pretty pigmented. I'm just gonna place it with my fingers and then start to blend it out. Wow. Okay. I'm just gonna take this e.l.f. brush and kind of blend out the edges just a tad. But I feel like that looks really nice and it applied really easily. I feel like a good amount of color showed up. I didn't have to use a ton of product, but it definitely is quite buildable. And I think that color looks really pretty. You can see that there's quite a bit of dew and glow to it. So far this color looks pretty good. Let's see how the other one performs. Again, I'm gonna take a little bit of Coral Ember on my fingertips and just pat it in. I feel like I do have a little bit of a flush already because my foundation is pretty light coverage. Oh wow. Okay, it's definitely showing up. I was expecting it to be super duper sheer because it applies quite sheer on my fingers, but maybe because I'm not really spreading it out too much, the pigment is showing up. Still pretty light and sheer, but that's honestly what, oh god, I like in my blushes. This is why I'm not really a fan of this tube packaging, because I feel like it just gets air inside of it, and when you squeeze it, you never know if it's just gonna like blow up on you. So I'm just gonna take a little bit more, pat it in, and see if I can build this up. Hard to tell, but I think it's a teeny bit patchy right there. Alright, just for the heck of it, I'm gonna see if I can build it up like one more layer with a brush. I have noticed that these blushes do set down from the swatches that I've done, and I assume that this layer has pretty much set already. Yeah, my cheeks don't feel tacky at all. This one isn't quite set yet, but this one pretty much is, and you honestly don't feel it at all on your skin. It feels pretty smooth. And with a little bit more of the Nude Burn color. Okay. I'm just trying to work in some more product so that applies. Okay, not really liking how these apply with the brush. I feel like it was fine to blend out the edges, but to apply it's looking kind of uneven. Maybe it's the brush I'm using or the technique, but I'm not really liking how it's applying with the brush. And then let's go to the other side. This time I'm gonna try adding more with my fingers. I'm finding that this part of my cheek here is getting kind of patchy. I don't know if you can see on camera. It's kind of hard to see because it's so dewy, but like there's a patch right here where the color isn't really applying. Alright, so I think that's as far as I'm going to go in terms of applying it to my face. Let me just get up close so you can kind of see a little bit more. This side is really hard because of the light. I feel like from far away it looks pretty good, and I like how healthy my cheeks look. Definitely isn't my favorite liquid blush that I've used. I like that it's a sheer formula and it really shows your skin underneath, but I do think that there are better formulas on the market that I will get into in a second with some comparisons. I'm honestly being hypercritical because I'm just looking at my face super up close. But yeah, I would say that if you're on a budget or your options are limited and you can only pick up beauty products that are at your local drugstore, this one is still a pretty good option. It has that really pretty sheer glowy finish to it that just looks really natural and makes your cheeks look really healthy. And it also sets down pretty nicely, so I don't think it's going to move around throughout the day or just like get all over your clothes. I'm not going to be doing an in-depth wear test in this video, but judging by the swatches which have set, they have like worn down a little bit, but I've been like rubbing them and they have left behind a nice stain, so I feel like it does wear nicely. But if your options aren't quite as limited, I would definitely recommend some other liquid blushes. I would definitely say that the closest in formula and in price are the Flower Beauty blush bombs. These are also more of a like gel cream type formula and are sheer and have a dewy finish, but in general I would reach for these any day over the Maybelline blushes. The formula on these are really good, the colors are really nice, and I also like the packaging on these a lot more because they have this little pointed tip that shows how much product is there, and it's a lot easier to control how much product is coming out. I'm going to show some side-by-side swatches, so let's see. So I would say Coral Ember is kind of in between the Flower Beauty blush in Pinched and Nectar. So here are some swatches of the Maybelline Coral Ember next to the Flower Beauty blushes. So this is what the swatches look like, and just FYI, I used a lot more product of Coral Ember to get this, and you can see that the Flower Beauty ones are a lot more even and smooth, whereas this one kind of bunches up in certain areas and ends up getting pretty patchy. So this one on the middle is the Flower Beauty blush bomb in the shade Pinched, and then this one is in the shade Nectar. And obviously the packaging is really similar to the Glossier Cloud Paints, but I would say that the formula is quite different. The Cloud Paints are very pigmented and dry to more of a matte finish. The Glossier Cloud Paints are also a bit more liquidy and moussey rather than like a gel. So here we have the Maybelline Nude Burn, which again looks quite patchy next to the Glossier Cloud Paint in Dusk. Oh yeah, you can see the difference in sheen here. So the Glossier one is quite a bit more matte. One last liquid blush that I have that I wanted to compare it to is the Cosmetics Serum blushes. I have it in one shade called Sunset Sky, which isn't really a match for any of the Maybelline shades, but the finish is also pretty similar in that it has that sheer factor to it and dries really dewy. So here is Sunset Sky. These blushes are pretty pigmented and bright, but you can see how it shears out. It has kind of a similar finish. I would say that the Maybelline one looks even more dewy actually. I'm not sure if it's because of where I place this on my hand, but the texture of the Cosmetics blushes are very different because they're more of like an oil based, so it feels different on the skin and it also doesn't set the same way. The Cosmetics one just kind of feels more like an oil on your skin. When I washed my hands after swatching these earlier in the day, you could really see the difference and the staying power of the Cosmetics one. The stain pretty much stayed after I washed my hands, and it wasn't until I used a waterproof makeup remover where it came off easily. So yeah, I hope these comparisons help. If you have any of these other liquid blushes, I would say that you don't need to go out and pick up the Maybelline ones, but you can tell that they give a pretty similar effect, and if this is the effect that you're going for, it's worth trying out. So that's all I have for this video. I hope it helped you guys out. If you guys have a favorite liquid or cream blush, please let me know down in the comments below. Thanks, bye!